In a 3, and a 2, and a 1.
Welcome back to another episode of Let's Go Hunt, the hunting podcast you listen to when politics just won't do. On tonight's debate floor, we have four major morons: Mike Gonsalves, who will probably drone on; Sam Alexander, who's hunting thin air; Vince H., who is dodging germs; and I'm Dave Packard, who is jealous of Pikes Peak and others. No. Tonight we're talking about male bees and hunting.
Does it
What is
snow
the
on
term
Pikes
for?
Peak?
Yeah, it did. Last week, 2 weeks ago.
It's
Bastards.
gone now. It was gone. Like,
Don't you ruin my fucking dream.
you can take the plow up there, but you're gonna plow right off the edge of the cliff because there's nothing else to plow. Oh, sad Dave.
Reminds me of that
Dave.
episode of The Simpsons where Homer gets a snowplow.
Yes. Oh, Mr. Plow, that's his name. The name again is Mr. Plow.
We actually have a snowplow named Mr. Plow. And ironically enough, we have another one that's out of Denver that's
good.
named Snowflake. Like, that's fitting.
That works.
I like that. What was
good.
the,
This is Bob, right?
yes,
That's Bobbert. Yeah.
I get Bob.
Robert. Our favorite Gideon. Well, this is awkward.
It
Everybody
is awkward.
cough and
I
be
was
quiet at
making
the
sure it
same
was actually
time.
streaming. I was making sure it was streaming to Rumble because I had some technical difficulties earlier or something. And is it working? Is it working? And that's working. So fantastic.
Fair enough. Since it's working, we're talking about drones tonight because late breaking news: Missouri passed a new law where you can use drone,
Sorry, go ahead.
where you can use drones to hunt. However, you can't actually use them to hunt. We'll read the actual text
Well, hang on, wait,
from
wait.
their fallen turkey.
Hold
Wait,
on.
wait, wait.
Ha!
All I'm going to
What?
say is, I think we beat Meat Eater to the punch on this one. So take
Nice.
that, Stephen Ranella.
Suck it,
You
Steve.
heard it here first.
Oh, that should be the
On
show
Let's
title.
Go
Fuck
Hunt.
Steve.
Actually, that would be ironic because on the back of his whiteboard he has "Suck It, Brody" for their trivia game.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh,
so
never see it.
suck it, Steve. Actual text from their fall deer and turkey brochure from 2024. You may use drones, unmanned aerial vehicles in parentheses, to locate wounded deer and turkeys. Before launching a drone, you must get permission from the public or private property owner. I have something else to say on this. To use a drone on a conservation area, you must get permission from a conservation agent. Drone operators do not need hunting permits, provided they are not the person who wounded the deer or turkey. While the drone's in flight, no one may have in their possession a firearm, bow, or crossbow except for concealable firearms as defined in Chapter 571 RS it blah blah blah.
Wait,
Missouri.
no one may have a firearm, so like every time a drone goes up, everyone has to throw down their guns in the state of Missouri.
That's the way the law is worded, but I'm sure what the intent was the no person may have, but they're
You know what this means?
legislators, so
The four of us can take
legislizards.
over the entire state now.
Just launch a drone and like, ha! Give them up, boys.
There's a drone in the vicinity. You can have a gun. La la la.
Yeah, right. No 1,000-foot gun-free zone around drones.
Yeah. But anyway,
Okay,
revised statutes of Missouri, concealable. Go ahead.
so the biggest thing.
Hey, wait. No,
This
you're not
is-
done yet. Concealable firearms possessed under this exception may not be used to take wildlife.
Oh well,
For
yeah,
additional
that's
rules, C3 CSR 10-7.410 of the
Yeah, like I
Wildlife
said, blah, blah, blah,
Wildlife
Missouri
Code,
law.
Missouri.
Okay,
I
I'm
was
gonna
trying to lead you into that.
chime in here real quick. So you're following up on wounded game with this.
Yes.
You have permission
hmm
to launch the drone to look for wounded game. What happens when you find it and it gets up and runs off?
Then I bet you have to land the drone.
Then you have a
And
drone
then-
with a little bomb attached to it, and you
I was
flash right
thinking
up that
net,
deer's
but yeah.
wazoo.
One, I wish. Two,
Drone net.
like, it's not. I don't know. It's bothersome because Like, yeah, I get what they're trying to prevent here, but also if you're trying to pursue wounded game and they're like, hey, this should be allowed because you can do the pursuing your wounded animal easier to keep it from going to waste or suffering. But hey, you're not allowed to actually shoot it when you find it.
Yeah, like that's why I think that's why it says drone operators don't need a license as long as they're not actually hunting, so that you can bring like a 7-year-old to fly your drone while you look for your wounded elk because you can't shoot.
Yeah, no, but it says no
says-
one can
Yeah, no one's allowed
have
to
a
be
gun.
armed.
I think
No
the
one
reason
can be
for
armed.
that, and I could be wrong, I think the reason for that is because they could play the game of saying, hey, we are looking for this wounded deer. But in all actuality, this guy is like walking up on a very alive and healthy deer that hasn't been shot and then shooting it, being like, oh, I found him. It's okay. It's all good.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to prevent somebody from finding a loophole in that same
Mhm.
area. One, oh no, look, we're not hunting. Fred over there shot one, so we're all looking for it. Because what's the game warden gonna do? Like, I mean, he could follow you around all day, and you'd be like, well, dang it. But
Yeah, that's interesting. You're probably right. I don't like legal speak, especially as written by the lizards. They it's not clear. It's vague.
Look,
Well,
I don't
well,
speak
the world
lizard,
is.
but I understand it, and this is doing exactly what it intended to do.
Be vague and confusing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Likely
for or
arbitrary.
against?
Against. I'm for using drones to find the animals. I'm against the way they've gone about this.
I'm
I
against the guy who asked permission.
Okay, that brings up another point, and
hang on,
I
hang
wanna,
on, we're not done.
I
No,
know.
no,
I know.
you're good.
I'm just
I was just-
remind me to come back to my point. Is what I was going to say.
I'm going to be in the stick in the mud and say I'm against for reasons that I'll get into later. Against in terms of against using. I'm not for the use of the drone.
Okay.
Vince?
And Dave, you didn't talk.
I'm waiting.
Oh, Vince already said.
I'm against this as it's written so far. Like, if it's my property, I think I should be able to use the drone for whatever I want. And if it's on public property, fine, you can make up your rules. But as it's written, I'm against this.
On in an aspect of game recovery, like, hey, I shot this thing, I got to find it. I'm for it. Because I about called our local wildlife manager to see if he had a drone to help me find the fucking deer that I shot last year because I laid down in the grass and mistakes of my own. I didn't mark where I shot from. I didn't have landmarks because it's fucking grass out here. But I about called him to see if he had a drone to help me find this thing. So I understand that it's worded weird. It's worded to where you're almost in the wrong all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it really limits you, like, where you can't have a gun. Like, I obviously have a fucking gun. I'm out there. I shot the thing. You want me to hike back and then put my gun up, then go fly this drone, then go back, and then back and fucking forth. The way it's written is stupid, but I'm for using drones to find down game.
Okay, now I will go into my more nuanced take on this real quick. We're nuancing my statement because I am for that. However, my concern with something like this always is where slippery slope wise will this eventually end up.
Mhm.
That's always one of my main concerns. So I'm not saying I'm specifically like, oh no, it must absolutely always be banned, but I'm going to be the devil's advocate type side where it's like, well, actually, this is not devil's advocate. That would be the opposite. I'm going to strongman the argument that it shouldn't really, that it does, that's all bad. I'm going to strongman that argument a little bit.
So
Because
where do you
all
think this
depends on
would
where
end up?
slippery
Where's
slope.
that slippery slope end?
Slippery slope end for me would be especially loophole type stuff, because we all love loopholes. Everyone likes to use a loophole. using a loophole to find
Loophole scopes.
I only like their scope mounts. Issue for me would be this stuff becoming very prominent and regular in terms of using it to scout for game, especially scout. And then Colorado, Dave and I were talking about this. Colorado specifically has a law that you could theoretically use a drone to scout for stuff, but you have to wait 24 hours after you land before you can go out and go hunt for it. The same goes for
Manned
trail-
Colorado
aerial.
already has that law, doesn't?
I
Don't
already
they
said
like?
that.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
literally
my
what I
bad.
just said.
Yep. Yeah.
And
My bad, I
same
was
goes
doing
for
something
trail
else.
cams. Same goes for trail cams that can live feed to your
Mm-hmm.
phone. Again, my concern is this turn into a freaking arms race at some point. If somebody finds a loophole of like, oh, I'm using my thermal camera. I just got back from looking for elk and had fucking bitch ass time trying to find them. Some dude who's got more money than me just flies his thermal drone up, goes, oh shit, they're right over there, and then off he goes.
Yeah, in some places I know it's not illegal to use like the live feed cameras because I've seen stories of guys like, hey, there's one out on my food plot, and he sneaks out there and puts an arrow in it while it's in front of the camera.
Mhm.
And I also think there's going to be some regional differences here too, because coming from Colorado, where big game in terms of its population density is much lower than Midwest, you know,
Oh yeah, you go to like
Also-
Georgia and you
they're
get
a little
12
bit
deer
more-
tags a year.
yeah, I hate
Yeah.
to sound like a freaking tree hugger here, but they're a little more precious here in terms of like, yeah, if we go ahead and just start popping them left and right, if Colorado hands out over the counter tags for archery, which the current success rate I think is about 5% on that tag, but now we can go fly out drones, find them the same day, and go hunt them. Well, shit, now that success rate's going to jump to freaking 20%, and that tag's going to go behind a paywall, which it's already been in danger of going behind the lottery system to begin with. So I'm
Well,
not necessarily saying I have a great argument for not being for it, but I want to be the side that says, wait a minute, is this actually good?
Well, and you get
What
further
could
up
this
that
potentially lead to if loopholes are found or somebody starts lobbying to get it, let me use my drone, man.
when you get further up that pay scale, like what people can afford,
Mm-hmm.
you have a drone, but then this guy's got a thermal drone.
Well, but the thing too, eventually the thermal stuff's just going to get cheaper and cheaper. It might take 20 years, but I mean, thermal stuff 20 years ago, price wise compared to what you can buy for your bang for your buck now is a hell of a lot better than it used to be. So at some point, average dudes like us will be able to go drop, it might still be a couple grand, but it won't be so far out of I mean, hell, you can still buy thermal drones that are not terribly like, you don't have to remortgage your house to get them, but yeah. Somebody else talk for once, please.
I
Okay,
can
so
go ahead, Mike.
I have a very unique perspective on this simply because of a paper I wrote in college. It was
You
a
killed
constitutional.
a deer with a drone.
No.
An accident too.
In particular, the part where you have to get permission to fly above a landowner's property. The paper I wrote, it was a constitutional law class. Literally, the name of the class was constitutional law. And the professor was like, you need to pick a constitutional issue and argue for or against it. And you cannot pick the Second Amendment because, God damn it, I've had enough Second Amendment. And I was like, oh, no.
I understand his.
I do too.
There would come a point where you'd be like, all right,
Yeah, that's
give me
enough.
the original idea, please.
Right. And I totally understand that. And so the topic that I picked was the constitutionality of aerial searches without a warrant. And I argued very heavily against aerial searches without a warrant because if a nation exercises free sovereignty over their airspace up to a certain point in space, whatever we agree that point in space is, then why do landowners not enjoy that same amount of privacy when it comes to governmental incursions into their privacy? And I literally argued both sides in my paper and then came to the conclusion that you can't. The government should secure warrants during aerial searches because you are flying over people's property. There is a certain point when you lose your privacy, your expectation of privacy on your own property. And if a government agent can come in with a helicopter 50 feet up and see everything you're doing, it's an invasion of your privacy. The
So
same
growing
with the drone.
wings like Tinkerbell doesn't remove your rights.
Correct.
So are you saying
Amazing how that works.
Yeah, I shouldn't be flying drones past people's bathroom windows?
Past is fine. Hovering in front of is not okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna see old Greg just sitting there squeezing and sweating, man. Be careful.
Hey,
Giving old Greg a nod with the
Yep.
the chopper as he looks up at you. Just Greg.
I need a little screen on it to where you can just give him a thumbs up, like, you go, buddy. You got this, man.
Okay, so Mike, what is the height to where you own airspace, in your opinion?
When it comes to private property, I believe a reasonable height would be one at which details aren't completely discernible.
Oh,
To
so
the
we're all
naked
screwed
eye.
with satellites then.
Like,
Yeah, that's the
I'd
problem.
say 1,000 feet.
Naked eye,
'Cause-
yes, but the problem is this. I mean, technology allows you to see way better than the naked eye.
That is
So
the
it
problem
becomes-
now.
I think it's an unwinnable. Well, not unwinnable, but it's one of those arguments that it's like there's no right, clear answer on it.
Look, it goes back to an
Yeah.
argument for the Second Amendment that you need ground-to-air tracked ordinance to take down drones that are illegally flying over your airspace.
This is fair.
As long as they're
100%.
bearable arms, it's perfectly within the scope of the Second Amendment.
A Stinger is called a man pad for a reason.
I was about to say, I don't know about you, but I can bear a lot on my shoulder.
I
Especially
can bear a
when-
lot on my shoulders, not on my back or any of the rest of it. But my shoulders are good.
You're disabled. You get to have a wheelbarrow.
Yes. Am I in the wheelbarrow?
I didn't think
I'm
about
not
So
that.
to bring this back around to our
Please.
original topic,
Please.
I cannot remember which state or states it is. I believe it's up in the Northwest where it is illegal to use blood tracking dogs to find down game. So that's I see the drones being a good thing. I mean, yes, you could hire a hound to go track your game, or you could hire a drone to go do it. I could see those same people being like, hey, man, I shot this elk. It's on this mountain. Can you help me find it? And then you meet them at your vehicle where you can stash your guns. They take their drone up. They find it. They drop a waypoint. It's like, okay, this is its last known location. Then they land their drone. Then you go up. That's where I could see this being. That's where I could see this working. Hounds
Yeah.
is a little different because to my knowledge, you can carry a rifle with a dog. But
This appears to be California, Hawaii, Washington, and Oregon.
okay,
It doesn't say the drone has to be unarmed. In any case,
We're
that's
doing
Mike.
that's an NFA item.
Mike,
You can't hunt with an NFA.
God damn it.
No, it's not a bomb. It just has a really.
I
it
didn't
has a
say
spear.
destructive device.
It has a spear.
It could
on
be. It could be an AOW.
kamikaze drone. If
So-
you tape an arrow to a drone and then you just fly
That's
it
what I said.
into a
It's
deer
just a
as
spear.
fast as you-
You just lance them. Bonk.
Yeah. All you need is a stick to take out one rotor and they're toast. Before I realized that I went super government nonsensy, the point I was trying to make was that the government is now saying that private citizens have to get permission to fly over your own or fly over private property, but the government does not need permission or a
Oh, they've
warrant.
already determined that
So-
for themselves ages ago.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy of it.
Well, there are FAA requirements for drones, correct? 500
Yes.
feet, right?
Something like that.
It
so
also
with
depends on the size and power of the drone.
okay,
Yep.
so if you are FAA licensed and you're above 500 feet and you cross into somebody's private property, would you be violating this law? Do you think? If you don't have permission,
You'd be violating the FAA laws, but no, we could call it no. Like I agree, there should be a reasonable altitude, and it shouldn't be 30,000 feet.
If you're licensed, if you're FAA licensed drone pilot,
I see what you're saying.
yeah, like if you're free and clear and legal in the FAA terms,
the limit is
you
not
fly
500
above?
feet. It's not 500 feet for FAA pilots. It's 500 feet for the drones, so that they don't get in the way of aircraft. Like the drones cannot go above 500 feet. You have to have an FAA license in order to even fly the drones. Like you have to register your serial number, etc.
We don't need we don't need to get in the weeds on that. I think what it boils down to, if you need the landowner's permission, you're going to need the landowner's permission to go onto their property to get the game anyway. So
right.
Or guidance with your game and fish.
So at that
Don't
point,
get me wrong, I'm not arguing against. I think you should get the landowner's permission to fly above their property. Just so
I'm just saying,
for the very same reason.
I'm not sure this is as big of a sticking point potentially, because you're going to need their permission to go onto their land anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah.
And if they tell you to saw it off, then again, in Colorado, you'd go call CPW, and CPW would show up with an officer and walk you through it. So I don't know what provisions they have in Missouri, but
I would imagine something similar, but
I see all points, and I agree with pretty much all the points, but I do think that if you can recover game more quickly, I think this is a good thing.
I agree with the recovery of game and the efficiency of it.
I agree with the recovery of game part. I would just be concerned what the future holds. Stuff, yeah. Generally speaking, they tend, at least in Colorado, they tend to be very overly conservative about this stuff. Like, so I wouldn't worry about it too much around here. It actually goes for most Western states to begin with. They tend to be very, you want to do something? No, you're not allowed to do anything. I'm surprised Colorado lets us use compound bows, honestly. But, yeah, I would just be concerned, somebody finding a loophole, or I don't know. It's probably it's probably not a grounded concern, but I did think it was worth bringing up.
No pun intended.
You're terrible.
Anyway, you're terrible. You made the pun.
But no, so they brought that up. There is a link in the show. I might try and get the link in the show notes, but I did put the wildlife code in Missouri, so you can copy and paste that into the Googles and find it too. It's not, again, we read the actual text from the brochure. There's not a whole lot more to that. If you look up the wildlife code, the brochure honestly gives you more information than the actual law does, which is typical. So,
and if you have opinions on this, you can send them to contact at lghpodcast.com, and we'll read them. And
maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
we'll at least look at them, and if it's a bad opinion,
we will read them.
We will read them. I didn't say we'd read them on air. We will read them.
And then I put a bunch of stuff in the show notes about pros and cons, but I don't think we need to get into all that.
I think yeah.
Cool.
Sweet. So, Dave, what happened with Sitka? I mean, we knew Sitka was. We knew you weren't a hunter if you didn't wear Sitka, but what happened?
Oh, hang on, Agent Entropy. I can't even say his name. Mac, a buddy of ours. He did get a pronghorn. I think today it was. He shot a pronghorn, and he was not wearing Sitka. So I mentioned, and he mentioned that he was able to drive up to the kill site with his truck. And this is a guy who has previously said, if you're not hiking like 10 miles in, it's not really hunting. So I gave him a crack about, hey, not really hunting, man, and you're not wearing Sitka, so that pronghorn knew how poor you were.
Mac is like that Saturday Night Live skit with the bears, except it's Sitka.
I don't know that yet, so you're.
I don't know that either. Yeah.
All right. Well,
no,
I guess
congrats.
I just aged
Agent
myself.
E.
Neat.
He didn't even take his Sitka with him, so he could put it on afterwards.
It might have been in the back of the truck.
He could have thrown the Camerado on first, and it's like, take a picture, and then he's like, okay, now take the real picture with the Sitka.
Actually, Mac is that meme with the guy sweating, trying to decide between two buttons, and the two buttons are Camerado and Sitka. And he's just like, I'm gonna make that meme later.
He's the Instagram reel I saw probably 2 years ago, which is like, but if I don't wear a Sitka, the deer will know I am poor,
No,
and they will laugh at me.
it's awesome. I'm glad he shot one. That's
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Especially for what he say, Central Nevada.
I think so. Yeah,
So about
It
like what
looked
it
like-
is here, just a little more deserty.
it looked like a desert. That's what I knew.
Yeah, lots of sage. But
Yeah.
anyway, so Sitka. Saw
Sitka.
this a post, and it said eurooptic.com, which, I mean, it's a huge retailer, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a screenshot of, and I quote, Euro-Optic ownership believes that a person or company is only as good as their word. Our values will never be sacrificed regardless of the cost to us. We believe how business is conducted matters, and we cannot do business with partners who don't conduct themselves in the same way. Because of differences in core values along with the changing market conditions, we are eliminating Sitka from our retail portfolio and liquidating our extensive remaining inventory. There's a 30% off sale on Sitka at eurooptic.com right now. So
That's not enough.
I would like to quickly point out a comment I saw on a forum below that, which is that everything is marked way down to the point of being merely crazy expensive.
yeah, because of this, I will not be buying Sitka, mainly because I can't afford it. But
You mean but the $250 shirts now only $200?
yeah, so there's a lot of speculation about like what exactly that means and what happens. But I mean, you can take it as you will. You can do your own research. But I thought it was interesting to bring up. It's like everybody's all hardcore Sitka, and then Euro Optics like, yeah, fuck you guys. So I don't know.
Interesting.
I think Sitka got almost too much into their name. They're like, oh, we're Sitka. Everybody's gonna buy Sitka because it says fucking Sitka.
I just watched that weird video of that weird woman rattling her fingernails on the Lamborghini and then being like, Lamborghini. And I can just see her doing that, like, Sitka.
I can't talk. My Mystery Ranch pack has got that same camo pattern on it. And I will admit, I bought it with that camo pattern because it's like, well, and I kind of wish I'd done it another way around. I looked at the OD green one, I looked at the Sitka camo pattern, and they're the same price, and I'm, well, shit, I gotta get this. When will I ever own this weird freaking digital camo pattern again in my life?
Yeah,
But I don't
saw
know if it's them or is it Kui?
QU.
QU?
Yeah.
Somebody now has a. This is total fucking worthless to talk about. They have OD green like build with like all the strapping is all the webbing's coyote, and like, oh, that looks really nice. And I look at my Sid King and go, well, nuts.
I saw a
Rattlesnake
meme
time.
where it's a guy looking at this article or this little post, and he's wearing fucking QU or QU, however the fuck you say it. It's KUIU. That's how I say it. But he's just like taking a drink, like, I'll be damned.
Silence. I cue you.
No,
Alright.
I thought it was interesting. We'll see what happens.
I'm interested
Chicken might
to...
get real cheap.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's gonna get real cheap. I
I
think
mean-
people snap it up at just, again,
Wa-
went from insanely
Walmart's
expensive to
like-
crazy expensive.
Walmart's gonna license a Sitka name.
Sitka goes to Walmart's, like, what did Walmart do? The rollback aisle? They still do that.
They've rolled back on prices, yeah.
I also. Do we want to get banned on YouTube tonight?
I mean, it,
I mean, do you like your buddy Ethan?
It's
H?
wood. It's wood. It's not a black scary one.
it doesn't matter. You know they're gonna insta ban it as soon as you touch it.
Okay, fine. I won't touch
They're
it.
gonna be like, Dave touched.
So
his
it's wood,
nephew's
but it's
zones."
not a black scary one.
Exactly.
No, it's a white
Okay.
scary one. Dave's white.
Let's say it's just that it's
Yeah.
it's not unintimidating white wood. Got it.
White scary one. Show title.
Gideon Optics
but
asked
anyway.
what happened to Mike Ditka, and I think he got the reference. Thank you, Bobbert. He also said silence IQU is Russian for kiwi. Is that true? I actually
doubt
can't. I don't know if I can trust Bobbert Gideon's word on, outdoor company words.
I'm also not going to disagree with him.
I'm not either. I'm just
I mean,
curious if
because,
it's true. It sounds good. It's like when I told people you're not Hispanic if you're not from the island of Hispaniola.
He had to take medication for Hispanic attacks.
I think
so
you is
bad.
named after an island in Alaska. That's all I'm gonna put out there.
Good enough. Anyway,
Yeah, he admits he made it up. Well
It
played.
has a population of 10 people as of the 2000 census.
Do they all work on the gear?
I would guess that the population of that island, there's only 10 people that they could find because the rest of them are all feral.
It's 2 parents and 8 children. And they all
It's
make
possible.
the gear.
Anyway, rifle
So-
time.
Yes.
my stepdad had this gun when he was in high school, and it's an old Remington 700. And my absolute favorite caliber ever on this planet, 22-250. And he's had it for decades. And it had this little 3-9 by 32 scope that, the old ones that are all gloss black. Like it matched the barrel perfectly. Yeah. So it got an update tonight. It's got it's a 3-9 by 42 with a 30 mil tube. So upgraded a little bit. Ought to shoot a lot better now. Just
Nice.
that old scope was terrible, but no, I'm just super excited because I love 22-250. So
What
I'm
makes
gonna go
it so
shoot it
fun?
tomorrow.
I
It
never shot it.
a fucking laser. It is so flat and so fast. I love 22-250.
Is little bullet on big case.
Going super speedy. When I had my 22-250, it was a Howa 1500. But when I bought that rifle, my buddy had a bunch of hand loads that he gave me. And they were clocking right about 4,100 feet per second out of a 52 grain AMAX. And they would expand on a
Damn.
prairie dog, and it would just turn it inside out.
That sounds about right.
I love inside
Oh
out
my
prairie dogs.
God, I love that. I love a 22-250 so much.
Actually, that seems a little bit on the fast side.
It was hot.
There were some above
Like-
those piston hot loads.
Yeah.
They were pissing
It-
hot, you might say.
I saw the load data. I saw the targets, and this guy is a stickler when it comes to reloading, and he was clovering at 100 at 4,100 feet per second.
God
Like
damn.
if he backed it off, it spread out a little bit. If he got too hot, it spread back out a little bit, and I think it was like 36.5 grains was tits on. So that's what he did, and it chronoed at 4,100.
Damn, dude.
There's a barrel
Or just
binder.
shy. Yeah. By the time I got rid of it, it was on
a
its
smooth
last
boy.
legs. Yeah.
Technically, it slugs out at a 23 250 right now.
It was dumb.
Yeah, Dusky says 4,100 exclamation point question mark at
Dave.
sign.
What powder
Yo.
did you say he was using?
I cannot remember what powder it was.
Okay,
But
looking
it was-
at the 52 to 53 grain stuff in the 10th edition of the Hornady Reloading Manual, everything maxes out at 3,700 feet per second, so he's roughly 400 feet per second above that, which means bad things.
Oh, well, it never
That
blew
should
up
be
on
a
me.
catastrophic. That should be a catastrophic failure, dude.
It was.
It's like, look,
Something was wrong.
it works if we use pistol powder.
I didn't ask questions. I saw the shit, and he's like,
Vince-
"Yeah, this is what." And it was like every half a grain or so or shit, I can't even remember what it was, but 5 little pellets of powder. That's what he adjusted the load by, and whatever clovered the best was it. Anyway, yeah, off the shelf 22-250 is like 3,600 to 3,800 feet per second, but it was fucking screwed. 52 grain AMAX, Ethan.
Jesus.
Ouch.
All right, so my question is, Vince, aren't loading books set for a certain barrel length?
Hold on.
And my other question is, was Dave's barrel length different from these
Yes, but it's hard.
3,700?
It's hard to get that much. You're not going to get 400 feet per second out of barrel length unless you're going from like 10 inch to 22 inch.
Okay.
Everything in here was tested out of a. Hold on.
I will.
Multiple test part. Oh, okay. A 26 inch barrel was the test host for all of the grains of bullet weight from 35 to 60 grain.
Oh yeah, it wasn't a 26-inch barrel. I'll tell you that. No,
I
it was.
hate
It was.
that.
It was much shorter. I will.
I wish they'd freaking do their load development based on most common barrel length and not what's the ridiculously long one we can get, because outside of bench rest shooters, there's not a hunting rifle in the world with a 26-inch barrel. I shouldn't say that blanket of a statement, but most of them are going to be 22 inches.
I have one.
20 to 22.
Okay.
Listen, not everybody
I
has
will-
a 26-inch
I will-
barrel, Dave.
I will ask him tomorrow and see if I can get his load sheet and
we're not going
just
to
confirm everything.
we're not going to let it be known publicly what he's doing.
Okay. Is this right? I'm looking up the chamber pressure for the semi-spec chamber pressure for the 22-50. What I'm reading here is 65,000 psi.
That would.
Seems kind of high.
That's pretty high.
It's a.
Well, ask him what he says, and then
Yeah, I will.
we will publish
I will
the
confirm.
information next time. And I encourage all people out there to load your 250s to this exact scientific recipe.
Look.
I will be emailing, some documents that you need to sign first, and then let us know how it goes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it worked in a cheap ass house, so. I don't know.
It's gonna be like something.
I feel like the chrono was broken.
It might have been. I
Possibly.
don't know. I'm not
Uh,
saying that it wasn't. I wasn't there when they chronoed it. I just saw the data. So. But
mean-
it shot lights fucking out. God, I love that gun. And I get to shoot it. I get to shoot a 22-250 again. So I'm just super fucking happy.
He's so happy.
God. Look at his happy face.
He's smiling.
It's like a squirrel.
Yeah.
Got his nut.
I hate
Fuck
squirrels,
Speaking
you.
of nut,
by the way. Speaking of squirrels, what are we talking about next? Because I do hate
ooh.
squirrels. That's a segue for me too.
squirrel.
Ethan
Yeah,
has
I'd like to
a
try squirrel.
Ethan in the chat has a Garmin Chrono and he lives here in town with me. Well, not with me. He lives in this county. But
Oh, I was gonna say, just invite him to come hang out behind you creepily. It'll be fun.
we'll go test some stuff on a Garmin Chrono. See how it tests.
fancy. Well, no, I hate squirrels because, as you guys probably know, they're the loudest damn animals in the woods when you're trying to hunt.
The black ones
Yeah.
with the pointy ears.
All of them.
Oh.
Chittering away, throwing sticks, dropping stuff. It's like, shut up, you stupid squirrels. So on Sunday, we weren't supposed to have a show this week, but I had to change around my work schedule to take a break in the middle of my hunting trip. On Sunday, went out for the first little stint of archery elk hunting over the counter here in Colorado, and we'll just kill the suspense immediately. I didn't get anything. The elk are being assholes right now and not doing a lot of talking. I talked to a couple of guys who came by while I was sitting in the truck after I'd gotten back from. Well, I guess I'll back up to the start. I got there on Sunday afternoon. I started hiking, got the tent set up and all that fun stuff, throw on my pack, and all right, here we go. And start going up the drainage, and I make it about 100 yards, and I don't know what I bumped, but scared the absolute crap out of me. Just something from the other side of a wall, a shrubbery, and I just hear these two big snorts, and then something took off. Meanwhile, here's me going like, trying to figure out, do I get out my cow call so I can, if it's an elk, I don't spook it too much, or should I hook up my release to the bowstring, or maybe I should go, yeah, that was a disaster. I also found out very quickly that I can't have my little easy sucker inside the little pouch that was on my Vortex Bino pouch because I couldn't get it out in a fair enough time. So that was fun. Bumped out whatever that was. And that was the only sign of life of any kind of big game I saw the whole time I was out there. Climbed to the top of one ridge. Well, not quite to the top, but 3/4 of the way up. And sat my butt down to listen as the evening went on. And I thought I was maybe hearing some elk, a couple of bugles from across the way. I was getting kind of excited. Deduced that, well, maybe some of them are the road hunters down there. And like, well, no, that one sounded like it was coming from straight across. So I got, all pumped about that. Came back down. Mike, you get your chat to be in Rumble by opening up Rumble on your phone.
Oh, fair. You didn't have to do
You
that.
can't do it.
That was a private chat. You didn't have to say that on.
I couldn't type it out and talk at the same time.
You could have let someone else handle it.
Whatever. Anyway, so that was that was the first day. Just got down, a little bit excited for the morning. Went to sleep early. Got up. I got up a couple times throughout the night because I can't sleep solid I've never had a solid night's sleep camping in my life. So got up, just stuck my head outside the tent, did some listening. I don't hear anything. Okay, fair. Go back to sleep. Wake up a couple hours later, stick my head outside the tent, do some listening. I don't hear anything. All right, put my head back down, go to sleep. Woke up with the sunrise that first day. It's like, oh, crap. Well, I still don't hear anything. So decided to hike. I outsmarted myself and thought, I'll hunt above where the elk are probably at. I'll hunt up in the timber. So then spent the next hour and a half hiking up to, I think it was up 9,800 feet. Get to the top, start calling down, don't hear a damn thing. No one's talking. All right, fine. I hear a bugle off to the south. And I think about Kyle's advice. I'm like, all right, fine. So I book it as far south as I can before I run into a big ravine. And I stop, and I sit, and I call, and nothing happens. And then I finally deduced that, it's coming from over the ridge somewhere. It's people out there messing with their bugles. So, but no, I hunted that second day on Monday, all the way about 3/4 of the way up the drainage from the timber, calling down to where we had found elk bedded down last year, and got no replies. Popped down into the drainage and discovered that it's a lot drier up there than it was last year. The drainage itself is only the bottom half of it has any water in it right now. The top half is just bone dry right now. Walked out. I think I was out for 7 hours that day. I hiked a little over 3.5 miles. Got to the bottom, was chilling in the truck going, all right, well, now what do I do? And that's when 2 other guys drove by and we chatted for a bit. They had hunted that same drainage 2 days before and hadn't found it, hadn't gotten into anything. And then they made a very good point, which is it was 5 o'clock and they're still in the truck, which is These are not road hunters. So the fact that it was 5 o'clock and they were still in the truck told me that, yeah, they're not having a lot of luck finding them either right now. They're still driving around looking for a place to hunt. So, second day, that would be on Tuesday, I popped down to a different spot just because I could. Slept overnight in the tent and then got up in the morning, did a nice big old hike again. I think I was 6 hours and did a little over 4 miles, finding elk poop on the ground that's a day or two old, finding tracks that are fairly fresh, finding beds that are next to water that are fairly fresh, but just nobody's talking right now. Or at least they're not responding to me. They weren't responding to the other guys either. What I did do the second day, which when I go back out on Monday, I am not going to do this much hunting in the timber probably. I'll probably focus on staying down low and then working my way up if I hear them. But so I looked them up. They're called magma, whatever. They're called dikes. And they're these big they look like walls, man. Like there's a bunch of them up in Route National Forest where it looks like some Conan the Barbarian shit or something out of Lord of the Rings, where they look like these ruined, tumbled down walls. And so I kind of hiked a lot further uphill than I needed to because I wanted to go check them out. That was half the fun.
They were magmatic vents or some. They're basically what's left of a volcano that eroded away. There's the most famous one in the country is down in New Mexico or something like that. It's where they filmed Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I don't remember what it's called. Devil's Mountain or something like that.
But they do. They look like freaking, walls out of the Hyperborean age, out of the Howard's Conan books, man. They're sick and wicked looking.
Yeah,
I climbed all the way to the top of like the highest point I could get to on one of them, and then sat down and ate my lunch. It was like, this is really neat. I guess I'll go hunting now.
Nice.
But didn't turn up anything yet. I'm going to put in from Sunday afternoon probably till end of day Thursday, going into next week. 1 point of improvement. Part of the reason I came back down too is like it'll give me a chance to do a little rearming. I think I'm going to change up my calling strategy a bit. Excuse me. I was putting out like a cow call and then waiting and listening and then maybe doing another cow call 5 minutes later. It seems like the lost a lot of the cow call videos I was looking at, which I had looked at before, but too much time goes by and then I start going like, well, I don't want to call too much. It seems like you should probably be a little more insistent when you're out there cow calling, not just like, hey, I'm lost, but like, hey, I'm lost. Hey, I'm lost. Where are you guys? Hello. Hey, I'm lost. So
hey, I'm lost, board.
Yeah.
Hey,
so
I'm
hopefully,
lost, board.
And then next week too should be a little bit more into getting closer when they're actually going into estrus. So
how often are you calling?
I was
like time-wise?
calling. All right, so basically I was calling every time I came up because both days I was pretty much hunting up in the timber. So on top of a ridge, because at that point it was closer to midday, thermals bringing the air up the ridge. So I was pretty much calling anytime I got to a spot that felt likely that there might be elk down in there. So in the first drainage, like I knew, we saw elk here last year. We found beds over here last year. The second day, but basically every 50 to 100 yards, I'd stop and throw out a call. But I was only throwing out like one call and then listening, and then let 5 minutes go by and put out another call and then listening, and then move on to the next spot.
Okay.
It's probably average.
I was just making sure you weren't trying like 30 minutes between.
No, but I doing a little more research. It does look like it should be a little bit more.
Yeah.
Not doing it constantly, but when you put that call out there, make it a little bit more insistent, and then wait and listen, and then maybe move on or be more insistent from there, instead of doing one call and then waiting 5 minutes. Because I have read stuff too that you can totally screw up calling by doing it too often. And I think I'll let that go.
Too often could screw it up, and then too little, they'd lose interest.
Not often enough, they may not even heard it, or it's just not, if it's
There's
not
so many ways to screw it
they're
up.
just like, whatever. But I don't think
Speak
they're
the
really,
language.
having spoken to the other two guys, and based on our conversation, they seem like they're doing basically the same kind of hunting I was. in terms of like actually getting up in there in the drainage and cow calling and not just sitting down on the road bugling constantly. I don't think they're not. Oh, that's the other thing. I talked to somebody else too later, but it doesn't sound like they're just not in the mood to be calling back right now. On the way out, I stopped at a city market to get a sandwich. And of course, who pulls into the gas station attached to the city market is a guy with a 5-point head stuffed in a lunchbox on top of his Nissan Pathfinder. It's like, oh, great, crushing feeling of inadequacy happening right now. And I watched him like, well, I'm not going to go approach him while he gets gas. Good for him. And then he came around and parked in the city market. So I was like, all right, never mind. I'm going to go talk to him. Big ass shit-eating grin on his face.
Yeah,
Like,
no
good for
shit.
him. I was like, dude, awesome. And like, I don't want to eat up any of your time. I'm not going to ask you where you got it because that's just dumb. But like, were they calling back to you? Or he's like, oh yeah, we got him to call back. But I guess he said they only got responses in the last day or so. So they've been hunting the week prior to that and it had been pretty quiet. So yeah.
Interesting.
Right place, right time.
Right
Yeah.
place, right time. I also think changing it up this time around, not going to be doing that much physical exertion because I found out I'm perfectly in shape to climb 800 feet, but it doesn't mean I've trained for it to do it 3 days in a row. Doing more of that, get up early in the morning. I probably wasn't as aggressive as I should have in terms of being kind of a little wary of pushing straight up the drainage in the morning because I did bump something. I think in hindsight, it was probably either a black bear or a muley because it was just one. It could have been a lone cow, but at this point, they're probably starting to get up in harems, or at least in herds.
It was probably a deer.
It was probably a deer, but it sounded big to be a damn deer, though.
Well, when
So
you're,
I
to be fair, when
suspect-
you're out there in the woods and you hear something that weighs 250 pounds possibly like scamper off in the woods, that's going to,
True, but my only contention to where I think it may have been a bear is because it sounded big and it also sounded very uncoordinated as it was going. Now, deer can scramble and be uncoordinated too.
Yeah.
It just sounded kind of bumbly, like
deer scamper off.
And
where
I should,
bears
I
are-
in hindsight, I should have just.
Deer
poked
usually do
that.
that whole thing, unless they're like dying, and then they go and start making.
No, this was like I just heard these two big or actually, if I remember right, I heard a big like the brush shaking real fast, and then two big not snorts, but like sniffing, like it caught a wind of me, and then just crash as it just went storming off. So
You know what that
who
means?
knows?
This sounds like
It means
Bigfoot.
you smelled like fuck that.
Basically. but there's elks. I mean, I found fresh tracks maybe 150 yards into the drainage. So I was like, well, maybe I'll climb high instead of pushing straight up in the morning. Having checked the map, I think I know now probably where they're bedding down. I don't think they're climbing. What was it? I can't remember. You and I were looking at the topo map, Mike. I think it was like a 1,500-foot climb to get over the top of that ridge.
I just
To the
remember
bottom of the
looking at that
drainage?
topo map. It just looked like this giant steep valley.
Oh,
that-
it's steep. I don't think they're
like
going up
something out
over
of
the
Starship
top of the thing.
Troopers.
Yeah, I don't think they're going up over the top of the thing to get to the north slope. I think they're going straight to the north slope that's at the top of the drainage, which I have previously written off because it's within a half a mile of the road, and this is a road that gets a lot of road hunters driving up and down it and bugling. But maybe that's where they're going after all, and they're just shutting up when they get there. So we'll see. I've got another. So that's the main drainage I've been trying to hunt. On my second when I was up there on Tuesday, I found another very all right, if there's somebody parked in this one or I don't have any success in that first drainage, I've got a solid plan B where I've seen some fairly recent elk sign too that I'll go hit as well.
Nice.
So, and it has north slopes for sure. They're a little harder to get to, but they all are within like a mile and a half of a road. So pack out won't be impossible if I were to get one a mile and a half in. So anywho.
Fucking A.
But that's what I was going to get to. I think going up there next week, I'm just gonna say, well, screw it. We're gonna start at the bottom of the drainage in the morning because the thermals will be coming. They'll be blowing all the scent down the ridge sides and then down the drainage towards me, and just start pushing up them in the morning. And if I bump something, I bump something.
Have you ever smelled elk while you're out
Yes.
there hunting? Okay.
Last year, I think we stumbled into an area where they'd been bedded down. I guess I don't understand being new to this crap. I don't understand all their habits. Like, do they bed down during the night and then get up in the morning and head up slope some? I mean, they're not eating all night long, are they?
I have seen them bedded at night, like in hayfields.
Yeah, because they're basically right where the creeks are, and this was in both drainages I was in. Like literally right up to where they could just drag their head over and get a drink.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like they'd been bedded down, but they're not there during the daytime. They've got to be there overnight or something, because these are fairly fresh beds. The grass hasn't had a chance to stand back up yet, but they're definitely not there during the day. They're gone during the day.
Could be old
Curious how
beds.
long it takes grass to stand back up after it's been bedded in, because walking around the woods out near Burlington looking for whitetail, there's beds everywhere, but there's no deer.
The problem is that grass is all dead. This is all fresh water. I mean, it's right next to the creek, so I mean,
Okay.
it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be laying down for 2 weeks. And you can also just kind of tell by looking at it. Like they didn't look super old. Also, one of them had a pile of poop right next to it that elk laid down to nap and took a shit in the same spot. And that
You're not
scat
supposed to
pile
do
was-
that, I'm told.
Oh, apparently this
Or is
one
it-
did.
Or is it?
Or somebody came by and praked them. But anyway, the point being, last year we were going through a spot like that, and they must have only been there a couple hours beforehand because it was strong.
Yeah.
Just a nice musky get hit right in the face with it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. That's where I'm like, oh man, this is the part of elk hunting that I love.
Oh, last year, I think I had mentioned this. We had hiked up the drainage, so scouted out, and then came up to the fire road, and then came back down it. Well, then two of us cut down catty corner from the fire road where there's a bunch of blowdown, just got back to the bottom of the drainage, and there was a perfect little pile of elk shit on top of a log that wasn't there when we had walked past it. Somebody had come through while we were up the drainage and went and moved on. It was like teasing us. But so that's what I'll be going back up and doing next start next week. I'll probably try and hunt both. Well, I'll probably, I don't know, put 2 days. I would say if I'm not getting any callbacks on within like 2 days of hunting the same spot, I'll probably switch areas at that point and see if I can get better luck somewhere else. Maybe that's a little too. Maybe that's being a little pinball too much, bouncing back and forth. But oh well.
To add to your switching areas deal, and kind of tying back in your whole trip, you added me on your Zolio contact list, and I don't know what the fuck was going on with it. Like, all my notifications were on and everything, but I wouldn't get anything. I check it 2 or 3 times a day. I was like, is Sam alive? And then I'd send you a message and be like, hey, this is your noontime. Hey, are you still alive? Check in. But it would never send me like notifications. I don't know what the deal is, whether it's my end, whether it's
I got it working
Zolio
with my wife in the end, but the first day we're acting kind of weird and spotty.
Yeah. Like I was starting to get notifications.
I got to the point the first night where I actually drove. If you drive about 3 miles out, there's one tiny bar of cell service. I had one little 100-yard stretch of the road where if you hit it, you got to stop and park. I managed to call her. I was like, hey, is the thing working? She's like, oh, yeah, it is. Sorry. Like, all right, good. Because if it wasn't working, I was about to leave because I'm not hanging out here by myself without some way of calling for help if I need it.
If I went into the app, I could see the messages that you sent, but it would never give me a notification. It is now, but
of course,
I don't know why. But
yeah.
Anyway, it's still pretty handy to have a little dealio.
Now, like I said, I wouldn't do it without one, just because
Yeah.
a couple of those freaking blown down timber. I hate blown down timber because crossing some of that shit, it's like, yeah, I could easily break a leg right here
Mm-hmm.
and be stuck for a while. So
Especially solo. And
yeah,
we have a little private chat that's for this podcast, and you told us where you were initially going to camp, and then like an option 2, and then option 3. So that telling somebody your plans
you'd find scraps
is
of me later.
I didn't join. I wanted plausible deniability.
Yeah, fair. Well, that's another thing too. Aside from telling people where you're at, another very common sense thing to do is also tell people when you expect to be back.
Yeah.
yeah,
That
So
way
it's
they
like,
know
"Oh,
when
it's
to go
Thursday.
looking for you.
We haven't heard from him. He might be dead."
somebody blowing up your phone at like 6 o'clock at night. You're like, hey, I'm fucking on elk right now. Stop texting me.
Well, the Zolio thing makes noise when you first get it, so you got to go in the settings and tell it to shut up, so
Oh,
it doesn't sit there and beep at you when it gets a message. But yeah, so that all went, fairly smoothly. No bow issues. The only issue I had gear wise, well, we had a gear win and a gear fail. The gear win, which I'll probably talk about more in depth at a different episode, is MSR, the 10-liter gravity water filtration bag. Oh,
Mhm.
I'm in love. I was thinking 10 liters would be too much, but you know how nice it is to just dip that thing. I mean, I was not a very, it's a seepage coming out of the mountain. It wasn't a very big pool, but I still got it half full, and you just hang it and you plug it in, and it's like water on tap. It's so much nicer than using the Sawyer filter where you get the little squeeze bag and you're like, fill it and like, squeeze it out, and then fill it again and squeeze it out. Yeah, it was very nice.
That
And then
sounds
gear,
pretty cool.
and then gear fail was just my the Vortex Bino pouch that every pair of Vortex binoculars comes with.
Mhm.
I broke 2 buckles on it this year. It made it through
Oh.
just fine last year, but it broke 2 buckles, and then for some reason I could not get my rangefinder out to save my life. So I ended up carrying my rangefinder in my pocket, and over all that walking, riding around in my pocket, it gave me a nice little hotspot. It's like, fantastic. So I borrowed
Oh.
from Sean over at We're Like Shooting. I borrowed Coltac Bino pouch from him, and it's got a nice little magnetic closure on the top and little side pouches. I'm like, ooh, I'm have to get me one of these.
There seems like there's a lot of space on that Coltac Bino
He's
pouch.
got an extra pouch underneath it. I don't know if I need this much space on one because I generally only carry my binos. I did lash my that easy sucker call onto one of the straps, but I found out the easiest place to put it is literally just tuck it right in between my chest and the bino pouch instead of trying to put it in a side pouch.
Makes sense.
Oh god,
Call
elk
that hunter's
bug-
cleavage.
yeah, elk bugle tubes. I hate them.
Hunter's cleavage. Just
Haul
because
'em
they're
that
so big.
Yeah, haul them that friggin' there. I could not find a good way to haul that damn bugle tube around with me, and also have it like, oh, I want to have access to this if I need it. Good grief, carrying it with you, pain in the butt. Try and put it. My mystery match Metcalf has a little lid on it, that buckles down the 2 pound. Try and stick it in
Mhm.
there. It fell out on me twice. Try and tuck it on the side pouches back here and buckle it there. Well, that's
What
fine
it is.
until you brush past a tree and it just clacks and makes a big dull thud sound. So then I put it inside. I got sick of the damn thing, so I put it inside the pack and just closed the lid on it and everything. And somehow, it took me a minute to figure this out. Every time I take like a hard step down, I'd hear this I can't even recreate the sound, but the thing's back there somehow pushing air through the bugle tube. With every so all I hear is this weird little this little woo. This little every time I take a hard step down, I'm like, what the hell is that? And then I finally figure out
Wait, did I step on a
somehow
frog?
it's in the back of the pack going woo woo. It's like this is
No, see,
you gotta be kidding me.
Okay. What you do is you tie a string around the small end and you just tie it to your belt. And that's what that guy from the petroglyph is actually carrying around.
Oh,
It's just
that
swinging
makes more
between his
sense.
legs.
Yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, man, I about chucked that Slayer bugle tube off the side of the mountain. I was getting so damn mad at that thing. Oh yeah, also like it's got a it's got a little paracord like string on it, kind of like all right, try and throw it over my shoulder, and then it's choking me, and it's like this is stupid.
Also,
But
that
anyway.
that Slayer bugle tube is the Swagger bugle tube with the Enchantress
Yeah,
call attached to it.
which I did.
If
use
anybody's
both,
wondering,
I did use both cow calls. I did find that just the fact that easy sucker could sit right here, because I can't do
Mhm.
diaphragm calls. My gag reflex or my mouth or my tongue is too big. My mouth is too small. Something. I almost freaking gag on the easy sucker. Apparently, it's pathetic, but it's just like that. So, but that easy sucker was very nice and convenient just to go. Oh,
Sam's gag reflex.
hey, you know what? I think it's better to say that you have a strong gag reflex than a weak one.
But why?
Anyway,
Look, I'm just watching Mike try and puzzle that one out, figuring where he's not making the connection, but
I was puzzling out what to say and just remained quiet because.
that's for the best.
yeah.
So I think that's. Oh, I guess the other thing I
First
can
time
report
in
on is
history.
that surplus uniform tops are just as good as Sitka. Take that.
Sitka.
Just as good.
I sweated, but I didn't sweat that much.
Were you moist?
A little bit. A little bit. Dried out pretty fast, though.
Well, that's good. That's not moist enough, to be honest.
Speaking of moist, I can go on one more thing because I almost forgot. One of my peak refuel meals from last year must have gotten a pinhole in it somewhere. And it was the one I
Oh,
picked for Sunday
man.
night because I cracked that
Oof.
thing open. And it's like, it wasn't like rotten inside. There wasn't a bad smell, but it's like, this is damp. All right, we're not
this
eating
is
that one.
this is just stale. This isn't dry. This is stale.
Yeah, it's like that's not supposed to look like that. So we're just gonna chuck that one in the trash pile. But yeah, anyway, I think that's all I got. I'll probably think of something later, but oh well.
Oh, Dave, are the tarantulas doing the tarantula thing?
Hang on.
Yes.
Dusty says the walking calls. He says his squirrel call happened. That happened with a squirrel call one time.
The walking calls.
Yep.
There has been 2 tarantula sightings thus far. They're not full on migrating yet, but I bet whenever coyote time comes around, I bet they're on the move.
Will we be
So-
getting crawled on?
If you want to. I mean,
I
I'm
would
not going to
rather
let
not,
them
but-
hairy bastards crawl on me, but
You literally sent us a video of one crawling up your goddamn leg.
no, that wasn't me. That was my neighbor to the south. I say neighbor, he's like 6 miles away, but
It's that
I
guy
mean,
that
there's
lives 6
there's
miles away.
there's one other guy in between him and I. So, neighbor.
You know, people eat tarantulas, right?
And they're fucking broken, is what they are.
Is there a season?
Fucking-
Do we have a
ugh.
tarantula season in Colorado? Because we could deep fry them.
It's a tarantula mating season.
You
And
can
no,
do
I
whatever
am
the
not
fuck you
throwing
want
out
with them.
I'm not throwing out tarantula pots to go like
They say the flavor is described as a mix between chicken and fish. Why do people say everything tastes like chicken? I feel like that's a lie.
because we're in the Matrix and they didn't know what to make chicken taste like, so that's why chicken tastes like everything.
But I think that's
Mike.
total bullcrap because the things I've eaten that people are like, oh, it tastes like chicken. It's like, this does not taste like chicken.
Chicken is like error 404, flavor not found.
Chicken is a vegetable.
You can make chicken
Mike-
taste like anything, which is awesome.
Mike, you ought to do tarantula bulgogi.
Tarantulogi.
Yeah,
Terrible
Nope.
word, but
do it,
That's
and then
a-
I'll
no,
do
thank you.
some. I'll do some tarantula etouffee.
You know what? Why don't I just go ahead and steam up some spider legs while I'm at it? Just here you go. Serve them up with some butter.
It's jalapeno tarantula poppers. You can wrap their little legs around the jalapeno.
Oh, too far. Too far.
It's
I
like
hate all
they
of
don't-
this.
You don't need
And then
a
just batter it and
don't-
deep
Enough.
fry it?
Nope. Too far.
You don't need a toothpick.
No more.
They'll
No
attach-
more. No more. You can just use their little feety grabby things. No, thank
Yeah,
you.
you-
We're done.
And then you just tie them off. They'll tie off their little feet underneath, and you just off they go on the grill. It'd be a nice
Ew.
little crunch.
I hate
I
this.
just don't like
You
my
might need
food
to-
to have hair.
Well, I was about
Yeah,
to say,
same.
You beat him to it. I was about to say, you might have to hit
Fair.
him with like a blowtorch first,
You might
just
have
to
to
scorch the
skin
hair
it.
off.
Have you tried skinning a tarantula before?
No, you don't.
Just-
Just it's
You
like
really,
it's-
all you have to do
really
is grab
hard.
it from behind and just go like a zit. Just spurt it out
They,
onto the plate.
they skin themselves. It's called the molt. Ugh. Fucking.
All of
Mm.
no,
I-
the legs
I'm-
around the pop. No,
Oh, sweet. Yeah, fried
Not a
tarantula
fan.
on a stick.
Eh.
I saw a video
I don't-
on somewhere of some Southeast Asian culture just ripping fangs out of tarantulas and then letting them crawl all over their hands, and then they finally like bread them while they're alive and then toss them in the oil, and then they're like, nummy.
Savage. I like it. Look, I would be totally open to eating like insects of all kinds if it wasn't for the whole agenda of trying to push like, oh look, bugs are a sustainable alternative to beef.
Yeah,
That's my,
crunch
that's my only compulsion
gets me.
against eating insects. I'd eat the crap
Nope,
out of any
nope,
kind of like. Sure, I'll eat that,
nope.
but
so
Nope.
it's just
the
like
thing
a
of
it's
here's
just
the
a hairy
thing.
land crab, dude. What do you want?
No,
Nope.
so here's the thing: is we tend to not eat predators because predators don't taste very good to begin with.
You wanted to
Um,
eat a fucking coyote.
Because I had a principle of shooting what I eat, and then I started shooting prairie dogs and realized it's actually. Or
I
eating
would
what
rather
shoot,
eat a
my bad.
prairie dog than a fucking coyote.
Yeah, but then we started shooting
I
prairie
wouldn't.
dogs, and I realized it's okay to not eat some things.
Mike's over here getting bubonic plague because he has to eat all the prairie dogs he shot.
I remember that fucking coyote. That coyote that I skinned and like started quartering out for you, and I got the back straps off, and they were about as big around as my thumb. And then I went to go cut into a ham and hit an abscess, and I was like, no.
Yeah, actually
I'm
you're
out.
right. That was when I stopped being in, when you hit the
Mhm.
abscess.
Yep.
I'd still do it. I'm not
So-
going to go out of my
We're
way
done
to
here.
do it, but I
The
wouldn't
point
say
is
no.
that prey animals eat plants and stuff like grasshoppers do, and locusts, stuff like that. Stuff that you could actually sustain. Like you can run around and pick up grasshoppers, fry them, and you've got protein. That's literally a thing you could do. Now go around and start looking for spiders. So spiders are venomous. They're not
We're
ideal
not
to
talking
eat to
about
begin with.
like the little spiders we're talking about tarantulas, man. Something's got some meat on it.
But spiders, no, regardless of what kind of spider we're talking about, spiders are venomous creatures. They're predators.
Okay.
And I can't imagine, like, I can wrap my mind around eating a bowl full of grasshoppers, but a bowl full of spiders, like, nah.
Vince, why are you yelling at Tyrell?
Yeah, Tyrell M says Bobcat is pretty good. I've heard. And Vince, in all caps, says I've heard that as well.
Not all caps. His I is actually lowercase. So I have heard that as well.
Yeah, it's called
Okay,
caps
so-
lock. Okay, it happened.
Stop it.
It happens if you're 80 years old.
Right?
Hey, why don't
There's a
you shut
Don't
difference
know how the shift key works.
between scavengers, such as coyotes and shit like that, and cats, like bobcats and mountain lions. I heard they are very, very, very close to pork. Like, almost indiscernible.
So, what if
I
one doesn't
would
much
fuck up
enjoy
some
pork?
pulled lion. Well,
Pulled
fix
lion.
yourself. If you don't like pork, you don't like bacon, and get the fuck off this podcast.
I like bacon. Pork is different from bacon. I realize they're
No,
the same
it's
thing,
not.
but
No, it's
it really is because bacon's cured, and you can cure it with
cured
like
pork
honey or
too, man.
you
You
can.
don't like fucking pork chops?
Not really.
Probably because he's only had pork chops that were like the really dry ones that are
Mhm.
nasty. Which you get yourself the whole pork loin, and then you cut your own chops, and then you make them about an inch thick. And it's a recipe on Cowboy Kent Rollins YouTube videos. But basically, it's a white wine sauce that goes with it. Oh, it's delicious. My dad and I once breaded pork chops in Cheez-Its because we thought it would come out really, really good. It turns out deep frying pork, well, it wasn't deep fried, it was pan fried in oil. Pork chops covered in Cheez-Its. The Cheez-Its actually don't do anything for you, really. They lose their flavor somehow. That was really disappointing.
They turn back
Ethan
into
in the chat.
cardboard.
Ethan in the chat says that mountain lion does in fact taste like pork.
And Tyrell says, I guess we could do a blind taste test. I just don't want to participate, but it'll help get the animals.
I mean, he is the human coyote call, so I imagine calling a lion's probably not much
Like,
different.
okay, one of these is bobcat, one is coyote, and one is spider. You have to.
What you
Pick
do is
which
you
is
come up
which.
behind Tyrell, and if you wrap your arms around him and squeeze him, coyote sounds come out.
And as
If
soon
you
as I
wrap your
bite into
arms
the
around
popper,
him-
I feel the crunch of the legs wrapped around it. I'm like, found the spider.
If you wrap your arms around Tyrell, I imagine I'll hear the crunch of your legs. Because he's not the one to be fucked with. He rodeos.
I don't think I could get my arms around Tyrell. I'm kind of small,
You are kind of small.
and he's kind of not as small.
He's gonna
as
put
me.
you on the ground
Large.
and ride you like a bull. Oh boy!
Ride me like a
Go for
bull
that one.
that's been put out to pasture for
I
30
bet I
years.
could ride
has no
him,
skin, has
but
no
I'd
meat
probably
on his
get
bones
hurt.
no more.
He's like, well, there's no problem sitting 8 seconds on this guy. He doesn't even move.
Just lays
We're
down.
going down a weird path. We are going down a very strange path, and I'm not a fan of it.
We've already talked about spider tacos or whatever, so Ty says I don't want anyone touching me.
This is fair. This is fair. I'm just, saying. Oh boy.
Well, that was all ridiculous. But
So
hey, we
no,
do have
they
a
have not. They haven't started moving yet, Mike. There's a couple, but the migration is not in full swing.
oh yeah, the spiders. We tangented hard. Good lord. Here's our, normal train of thought, and then straight to the ground.
No, we were talking about bugs. My 2-year-old
damn.
hates grasshoppers, man. I was letting him in the house. It was like last week, and he as a grasshopper on the porch, well out of his reach, he stopped to lean over and try and smack it. It's like, hey, calm down, kid. The grasshopper's gonna die soon anyway. Tyrell says you guys are talking like a bunch of whitetail archery hunters. Dave knows. Excuse me, sir. I am not a homo.
I beg to differ.
You did say
other
you
day
were
we
moist.
Yeah.
I said I dried back out.
Okay.
Yeah, but for a while you were pretty moist.
Yeah, for a
the-
while you wouldn't want to be downwind to me. We'll put it that way.
I don't want to be down with you now.
I carried a bottle of that the dead downwind spray with me because it's like I know about halfway through the day I'm just gonna go until my entire person.
Hmm.
It worked for a while.
Did
So,
you do that
real-
before you went in City Market?
Oh no, that was just changing clothes and get normal deodorant on.
Actually, he picked it up off the shelf and did it in City Market and then put it back on the shelf.
Nobody could smell the evidence. It was fine.
The other day, we came home from, picking the child up from school, and there was a grasshopper just chilling on the side of the trim right next to the garage door. And as I just happened to glance out the corner of my eye at this thing, and as I'm staring at it, a wasp comes out of nowhere, lands on it, grabs it, and flies off with it. And I was like, well, that was terrifying, and we went inside.
What are you afraid the wasp gonna pick you up next?
Do you
No,
live
not
in
really,
Australia?
but nature is scary.
Do
Damn,
any of
nature,
you
you're
guys
scary.
have tarantula hawks? I mean, to bring this back around to spiders.
Is that the wasp that preys on them?
Yes, the giant fucking black one that's like this long.
I haven't seen any around here. I've seen them in your place, but not here.
We don't have tarantulas for the hawks to get after,
have
so
thousands of them.
You have thousands of spiders.
They're like the June bug of death. Like they'll come flying into your face and hit you, and then fall on the ground.
that's a show
But-
title.
Their sting is so bad. Coyote Peterson on the old face page in YouTube's, he said that it is the second worst sting he's ever experienced, next to the bullet ant. is that tarantula hawk. It's a wasp that is like beer can for reference. It's like this
No, thank
fucking
you.
long.
So we can cut their stingers off and deep fry
Banana
them
for
with the
scale.
tarantulas.
Banana
Gross.
for scale. I don't have a banana. 6'5" Creedmoor. Meh.
Keystone for scale.
Dave, put your pants back on. For scale.
Dusky says there are many parasitoid wasps, and him living in the swamp full time, I believe him. He's probably got one
Mhm.
living in his head right now.
He probably is one.
You know how RFK Jr. has like the dead worm in his head? Dusky has like a dead tarantula hawk spider thing in his brain too.
I
Wait,
don't.
Pepsi wasps?
Pepsi
Pepsis.
Pepsi wasps.
This is Pepsi's.
I like Pepsi wasp better than cocaine
I
wasp.
think there's
And
no
related to
apostrophe.
Is the Mountain Dew wasp. But you really gotta watch out for the Baja Blast subspecies. That thing's gonna
No,
get you.
no. It's the
Thank
Dr.
God this-
Thunder wasp.
Thank God the surge wasp is extinct.
Okay, moving on.
Jesus Christ.
Oh boy.
If I dated myself enough yet. On that ridiculous note, we have a neat announcement that we have finally. So, several listeners have gotten with us and been like, hey, we like the Camerado thing that, Sean at We Like Shooting's doing, but we would also like Camerado with your face on it. And I was like, that's real weird. And they were like, no, your logo, not your actual face, you weirdo. And I was like, oh, my bad. So, good news,
Makes way
guys.
more
We now
sense.
have, yeah, I know, right? We now have a merch. It is firearmsradio.net /product -category /let's-go-hunt.
Or
And-
go to
and-
firearmsradio.net and just go to podcast, Let's Go Hunt, and click on the merchandise link.
Yeah, that's a lot easier, and the link will also be in our show notes, so that's really cool. We have 3 flavors of Camerado and 2 flavors of normal human shirt.
Yeah, if you're like me and not a true believer, you just get the gray t-shirt.
Right. And the gray t-shirt actually it looks like black, but they come in like 8 different colors. So, yeah, go check out the merch shop cuz we're really excited about launching that so that people can get our face on their shirts
Merch.
for some reason.
But
Yeah,
it's not my
they're-
actual face.
No.
But it's an elk face, and it could be an elk and beaver face soon. We don't know.
Yeah, I gotta get that finished, but
Yeah.
we should have our faces on something.
We should have our faces on nothing. Have you seen our faces? We have.
I mean, I'm handsome as all hell, so like, if you want, I'll just make it my face.
I've been to hell and back, and trust me, it looks nothing like your face. Your
Oh,
face
you know-
is far
oh,
worse.
you
Sam
know what?
photoshops his face onto the beaver and the elk.
So I mentioned that to Sean, and he threw it into his AI real quick, and it came back with a beaver riding the elk, which was fine, except the elk also had a beaver face. It's like beaver teeth.
Oh, wow. That's disturbing. I don't like that. Also, if my face is on anything, this will be the face.
Like you guys, that's what my skinwalker looks like.
Oh, God. Well, this has
Yeah.
been the most terrifying episode we've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
Wasps taking off bugs, spiders.
Tarantula jalapeno poppers.
Fucking. Whoa, yeah.
Tarantula talk, tarantula hawk, all the things.
All right. Well, Vince, did you go back to look for doves, or was this from last week?
No, this is a second trip.
Okay.
This is actually so I sent you guys the pictures just this evening, but the pictures of the rattlesnake and the little bit of video.
Yeah.
I wish I'd gotten closer to the snake with the GoPro so I could got a actually in the video would have made it much more valuable. But I didn't want to get actually any closer to the snake, and I would have had to get closer than I was comfortable with the GoPro. But I went back to the same spot. We kind of walked in a different direction, and we are getting in there, and boy starts to get a little thirsty, and it's like, okay, we'll go up here in the shade, and we'll stop and get a drink. And I get up there, and it's a spot in between 2 sets of trees with some brush around the bottom of the trees and stuff. and I just take the pack off, set my shotgun down, set the pack against the brush, and I'm digging in the pack to get the water out. And my son goes, "Dad," I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Look," and I'm like, "No way, no freaking way!" And like right there, 2.5 feet from where I set the pack down, just inside the brush, is about a 3.5 to 4 foot long. It looked like a diamondback rattler.
It looked like that to me too.
Um, but he was a well behaved little fellow. It did not rattle at us because you could hear it rattling in the video, and it was just doing a little. It did not rattle at us until a good 2 or 3 minutes into me looking around at it, trying to get a good view of it. After checking the rest of my surroundings and remembering that, oh yeah, snakes exist. But yeah, that was the highlight of that trip actually, because while we did see dove, we didn't see any until like later as we were walking out, because the field that they burned back in there was about a mile and a half from the road. We walked in there, sat for an hour and a half, didn't see anything, and then walked back out to the road where there was a pond. And we were walking by the pond, and one flew overhead. And I was too slow to actually get the shotgun up and get a shot at it. And I was like, dang it, okay, we're in the right spot. Because I started to realize it's been pretty dry around here, and all of the smaller water courses that usually have water in them, the smaller ponds, everything around there is all dried up. So this pond that we were standing next to is about the only water source that I could see within about a mile and a half or so. But it's still, we haven't had the migratory push yet. Like, we're not seeing a lot of extra birds around. So we might, I mean, I might have to go later. Unfortunately, this particular wildlife management area that I've been going to, dove is closed starting October 1st and extending through the first 9 days of rifle season, which is in late November. So dove season here starts September 1 and goes through the end of October, and then opens back up again in December. So I'll have to, come October, I'll have to find a different spot to go look for dove, which I was talking to a guy I work with, and there's some land access properties near there that I might go try instead. But I was a little distracted on that one because we got halfway in and I reached around in my pocket and realized my Chicro flashlight was missing. I'm like,
Oh no.
This reminds me of something else. Hang on. Well, after you're done.
I'm like, dang it. Okay, whatever. We'll keep going and I'll look for it on the way back. And then we get set up and sat down, and I look over at my son. I was like, hey, put your ear pro in. He's like, I can't find it. I'm like, dang it. So I had to walk back up the way I was looking around where we were setting up for his earplugs, and then I realized half of my earplugs are gone. So I had like the Surefire ones that are on a little lanyard, but they just kind of pop off and on if you want. So half of them was missing. So I'm looking around on the ground for his, and now I'm looking around on the ground for mine, and I'm like super annoyed because it's hot. I haven't seen a dove, and there was a snake, and yeah, out in the woods. This is what you run into.
Yep.
I ended up walking back up the trail, and I found his earplugs. I'm like, okay, good, there's something. And then I looked around on the ground around where I'd taken my pack off because I figured I just popped it off while I was moving gear around. Managed to find my earplug. I'm like, okay, great. And then spent like the entire walk back looking to see if I had misplaced my flashlight along the trail somewhere, which I'll cut to the end. It came out of my pocket in the van.
Oh,
So it was sitting in my driver's seat when I got back. So I just spent the entire time staring at the ground walking back instead of actually looking for anything.
Nice.
Oh, the other thing. Okay, do y'all know about the muscadine?
muscadine bloodline.
The wine?
The muscadine fruit.
Yeah, the
No.
muscadine wine. I've heard there's a. I didn't know it was actually a fruit. I thought it was just some southern thing.
Yeah, it's a tree-borne fruit.
Okay.
It's
Looks like a
It's-
weird grape.
it looks like a large. It kind of looks like a small peach.
Oh, these ones are all purple that I'm seeing when I googled it, so they all look like grapes.
The ones that I have around here, they're very yellow until they ripen, and then once they're ripe, they turn a middle orangish color.
Oh, okay.
And we were walking up in there, and there's muscadines everywhere. And I stop at a tree, and something you may not know about muscadines, but if you get one that is not ripe, it is the driest piece of fruit that you will ever that you will ever taste. So much so that it will make your mouth just go and it'll feel like your mouth is coated with something. I'm not sure what causes it, but it's got to be experienced. So we're out there and we walk by a tree, and I look over and I see a couple of like nice ripe muscadines. I'm like, "Ooh, hey boy, come over here," because I got my son with me, and I mentioned that I think.
Boy.
And I was like, "You want to
Come here,
try
boy.
this?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Come on, just try it." And so I have him try one of the nice ripe muscadines, and they're very sweet and they're flavorful and they're tasty. The one problem they have is they have huge seeds in them. Imagine like an orange that's, sectioned out like that, except 75% of the fruit is actually seed.
Oh, okay.
Do I mean persimmons? Dusky says persimmons.
I do not like
He also said scuppernog, and I don't think that's a real word.
Neither of those are words.
It's a scupper dog right there.
You know
He
what?
also said astringent. That's neither a word.
That is astringent is a word. I think Dusky's right. I think I might be mixed up in the brain. I think yes, persimmon is correct. You are correct.
Mm-hmm.
These are the persimmons.
Okay. Yes, I have eaten a persimmon. It looks like a strange mutated tomato. I do not like persimmons.
Well, they're very tasty unless you get an unripe one. And so my son, I knew, had never had a persimmon at all. And I'm like, "Hey, boy, try this one." And I hand him an unripe one. And he takes a bite of it. Or not even a
Dick.
bite. Like your teeth touch it. And then suddenly your mouth is like very, very, very dry all the way through. And he's just like, "Dad, what are you doing?" Like, I was like, I should have turned on my GoPro for that. I didn't
Yeah.
think about it.
What I like
Oh, wow.
picking out of the wild around here are prickly pears. I don't like the seeds though, so you got to scoop the seeds out of the middle. But prickly pear fruit is really good, actually.
They had
I have
plenty of
not-
prickly pear around there, and prickly snakes, and
I've not found any wild, well, aside from the raspberries up in the mountains, but I have not found any wild fruit other than that. I actually thought it might be a good idea to get a edible fauna. Is that no flora's flowers? Yeah. Anyway,
Edible
an
fauna.
edible plant.
Coyotes
Yeah.
and tarantulas.
Yes, clearly.
coyotes, tarantulas, and bobcats. Yes.
Yeah,
Oh
he says
my.
muscadine and scuppernog are wild grape types. That would explain why I was looking at pictures like that. Looks a lot like a grape, but okay.
Yeah. No, I had it mixed up in my head. I meant the thing that I had. I just had the wrong name for it.
I hate when
I will
do
say
that.
that this is the first rattlesnake I have seen while out hunting around here.
Really?
Which, yeah,
What
Usually I
rattlesnakes
think-
do you have down there? Eastern diamondback or western?
Oklahoman.
I don't know if what I saw was an eastern or a western diamondback. I do know that I have also seen a timber rattler.
Oh,
Here.
Probably
We have,
could
I
have been
think,
a timber.
I think we have a mix of at least 3 of them around here. We're very near the line where we get a number of them. Because
It was
we
thick.
also have pygmy rattlers.
Oh,
The little pygmy guys, the small ones. Yeah.
we have prairie
It looks-
rattlers here.
It looked like a Western to me, Western Diamondback,
Yeah.
because of that very definitive little black, but they weren't super dark all around. Yeah, we have, Go, Dave, sorry.
No, we mainly we have prairie rattlers here, and then the occasional western diamondback, and those are mean.
I'm going to guess this might have been a... See, this one was a very mild-tempered fellow. He rattled slightly when we got too close and stayed very still until we left. So, yeah. I was completely okay with leaving him alone.
You said it only had
Snake, it's a
5
snake.
buttons on it.
The actual diddly diddly
Like-
dude.
The rattle itself.
Yeah, there was 5 or 6 maybe. He was probably about 3.5, maybe 4 feet long. He was fat. He was a fat dude.
With the way the rattle sounded, and as big as that snake was, that's like a 12 or 13 button here. So I wonder if his rattle hadn't got broke off or something.
Because I was looking at like the curls and how long they were and how folded up it was, and it's like, yeah, that's about a 3.5 or 4 foot long snake.
It was fat.
Yeah, it should have had a lot more buttons on that one.
Interesting. We do have a season here for rattlesnakes. I just don't know when it is. I mean, I was looking at him like, that looks like a lot of meat there on Mr. Snake.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
those,
did look
those
very
snakes,
chunky,
there
right?
are. I would try rattlesnake.
I would eat
For sure.
I
Look-
would try, but look, I'm not. Someone else is taking care of that thing for me. I'll shoot it.
Is this
for
a
you,
blind
but I
taste
do-
test for you?
I will eat it. I don't want to touch the damn thing. I hate snakes.
Yeah,
I got
the,
that from my
the
mom.
biggest thing to get over would be the fact that it'd probably still move after you cut its head off.
Eh,
It keeps squirming. Like,
Yeah, but other animals do that too. It's not exclusive to snakes.
The prairie rattlesnake season in Colorado is June 15th to August 15th. Daily bag limit is 3, possession limit of 6. 6 snakes would get you a pretty good meal, I think.
like I said, I'm willing to eat it, but someone else is doing the processing. I'm not touching those damn things. I hate snakes.
All right.
I was. Mike's getting ready to leave. Well, one last little story. Actually, 2 last little stories. One of them, you lost your Chicro. I hiked. I forgot to mention this. I may have hiked around that entire Tuesday without my bow release strapped to my wrist.
Ooh.
So that would have been
Oof.
fun. So there's your lesson of the day. Make sure that thing is on your person at all times. But no, I dated a girl once who she had a roommate in the house who had some disgusting white and yellow python thing. Used to hang out in a freaking tank over in the living room, whatever. I don't want to look at it. I showed up to pick it. The plan was we were going to make dinner at her house and then go do something and save a little bit of money. Well, I showed up there with ingredients to make dinner, and I look over at the freaking snake terrarium, whatever you want to call it, and there's no snake. Where'd the snake go? She's like, oh, well, I don't know. It got out somewhere. We don't know where it's at. Like, all right, well, we're not eating dinner here. We're leaving. I'm not staying in this house with someone. I don't care if it is a python. I hate snakes, man. Ugh. I'm not hanging out here with some random snake flying around.
That's good information.
Yeah, Dave, you with your story, your snake up in your attic, it's just like,
No, the snake in the attic wasn't the big deal. That was just a bull snake. When I
Oh,
raked
true.
the rattlesnake in the house, that was the issue.
That's like the time I went to my in-law's house and I show up and my mother-in-law is wearing like a summer, like, knee-length skirt, like to go out and about downtown, but she's wearing rubber boots. I'm like, what's going on? They had some tiny little foot-long rattlesnake down in the basement. And I'm not sure if this qualifies as in season or not, but I clubbed that thing to death with a croquet mallet,
Oh my god.
and it was on carpet, so there was a lot of bouncing around.
Jesus.
That poor snake. I tried to get it in a dustpan first, but it did not want to come out and did not. So I was like, all right, well, fine. You're not leaving me much of a choice.
I killed a
We had a
rat.
snake.
Well,
We had a snake in between
bouncing.
the detached garage. He was just slithering around in this. He was about a 1.5 foot long garter snake, and I showed Ella. I was like, "Look at the little snake," and she's like, "Cool." We just watched it slither off down it, and then I left it alone because I'm an adult and it's a snake and it's just doing snake things. But then again, it's not in my house, so I can't really blame you, to be honest.
I killed a rattlesnake here a few weeks ago, and I don't know if I actually got it all the way killed. I ran over it like 8 times with the cracker, but the car doesn't weigh enough, and it was a big fucking snake.
Well, you gotta
Like,
put-
probably
you
one
get-
of the biggest prairie rattlers I've ever seen. And I ran it over, and I spun out on it, and I parked on it, and I turned my wheel back and forth,
Oh,
just
you gotta-
try and
you gotta-
smash it.
you gotta-
Oh,
you gotta get
fuck
the brake
no.
tap. You gotta get the brake
Yeah.
tap.
I did that.
At
My
high
car's
speed.
not heavy enough for that fucking thing. I think
When
I
you live
finally got it killed, but
When you live
it
out of
was
the
fucking
Eastern
huge.
Plains, Dave will know
No, it
about-
just played dead, so you'd leave it the fuck alone.
Yeah, well, Dave knows. When you live out of the Eastern Plains long enough, eventually you get that timing down really well for that brake tap.
Yep, and you can pretty well tell the difference between a bull snake and a rattlesnake from a
Alright.
distance.
One of my
yeah.
favorite memories out hunting
It's all
with
in the
my
head.
father-in-law. Like, we were driving down the old forest road, and we're in his 3/4 ton Dodge, and I'm kind of I've got the window down. I'm looking out the window, and we see this snake, and it's across the road, but it curls up, and he just keeps rolling and rolls over the curled up snake, and I'm like, I have my head out the window, and I'm looking down at it, and it completely is within the wheel like width. And so he gets over top of it, rolls over it, and the thing just pops like
Mm-hmm.
out to one side, and like
Like a
meat and
balloon.
blood just shoots out. Yes, like you rolled over a tube of toothpaste and just
Mhm.
shot it out to the side. I was like, "Oh God!" He's like, "Yeah, you didn't think that would happen? Like, you knew that would happen? Like, come on."
Well, to Dave's credit, you get some of those big bastards, and you're not in a heavy car. I'm pretty sure they just go wonk.
Yeah,
3/4
and then
ton
they
Dodge.
strike at you a lot. My wife ran one over in our driveway, and my youngest was hanging out the window, and he's like, "Why is there meat?" Because when she brake checked it, it pretty well skinned it, and so there was meat there. Why is there meat?
Oh, all right.
Oh,
that's-
I would love a rifle sling made of rattlesnake hide. That would be freaking awesome.
Bet.
Kills snake,
Next
ties
year.
it to rifle. Done.
Next year, I won't run over any snakes. I'll just shoot
run
them.
over the head.
It's
Well,
harder
when they're
than-
coiled up.
All right. So, no new reviews tonight, and that's all fine. Leave us reviews. I will send you stickers. Tyrell, your stickers are on the way. Dusky, I had to order new stickers, so you're gonna have to wait longer. But because you've already waited a long time, Dusky, you can wait longer. We
Yeah,
love-
see,
Oh my goodness! I have.
You've already
stickers. I
waited
will
this long.
send
What's a little bit
Dusky's-
more?
Sam,
Okay,
just
then send
me his
Vince-
address. Just send me his address. Just
Okay,
send me the
fine.
info. I'll send it.
Fine.
Post
Can
it
you
in the
have an
chat.
address when you live in the swamp?
I'm kidding. Don't post it in the chat.
Just address it to Florida. It'll get to him eventually.
Florida man.
And then, as a final note, we have talked to Bobbert over at Gideon Optics, and we now have a shiny coupon code that gets you guys 10% off if you want to go ahead and take our. At this point, on the LPVO that I have, the 1-8, I'm good giving that my endorsement. We'll put it that way.
Same.
That has been a solid optic. I have
Yep.
literally windmilled it into a beaver pond now. Actually, into the mud. I did that. I don't think I updated it. I got a teeny tiny a scratch on the objective lens and one on the ocular side, and it's still holding zero and still holding up. I mean, as far as those little scratches on the glass, it's kind of like having a floater. If you have any floaters in your vision, you learn to ignore them. I have bent it. I have drowned it. We will shoot it with a shotgun here coming up in October, which is. I thought about that and how it seems kind of ridiculous, and then I remembered that Dick Cheney does hunt. So this does hunt. This does fit under the potential hazards of hunting that can happen to your rifle.
Dick Cheney hunts, and Mike puts LPVOs on his shotgun, so
Yeah.
it could happen.
Yep.
Unlike
Only
Dick
Mike.
Cheney, I actually shoot birds with my shotgun. Instead
I
of-
mean, he probably shot a bird or two.
Yeah,
as
but
well.
if you're hunting with Dick Cheney, you might catch a load in the LPVO.
And that is what saves your life, because it blocks those pellets from getting to your jugular, sir.
I think
That
that
poor guy. I mean, imagine living your whole life and then you die, and then
He shot somebody in the face. Fuck him.
yeah,
No,
Yeah,
that's
God damn.
absolutely.
Cheney, the guy that
Oh,
got
yeah.
Oh God, we're
Yeah.
way too
Okay.
loud. Y'all need to back
Oh,
off
sorry.
our mics a moment. No, the guy that got shot, lives his whole life, gets shot, that sucks, then dies, and all everyone remembers him as is the guy who got shot by Dick Cheney.
Doesn't
Like-
even remember his name. Just the guy who got shot by Dick Cheney.
We don't pick our legacy.
Dude,
Oh, I didn't
200
know-
years from now, they're gonna teach in history books the guy who got shot by Dick Cheney, right alongside the cherry tree of George Washington.
Did
So-
you just say
If
1000
one of these
years?
things is true,
100 years, I said.
Oh,
Okay,
200
before we get
200 years.
sidetracked, if you want to use that
Too late.
coupon code, it is LGH Podcast, all in capital letters. Bob was disappointed we didn't use moist, but that's his fault because he suggested something,
Yeah,
nice
you should have
sounding.
suggested LGH Moist or Moist LGH or Moist Bobbert or something. It would have been fun.
Oh, well,
But
we'll
anyway.
get him next time.
But no, I 100% suggest everybody
and that is
give him
at
a shot. Go ahead, Vince.
that is at GideonOptics.com.
yes.
I just mounted the Advocate to the Rite. I haven't patterned it yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
And I am
it
super. Oh,
looks
sorry.
good.
Go ahead.
No, it looks good. I loved the Omega. The Omega was just an awesome optic. Like, yeah, you guys, if you want to try these that we've been raving about out, Gideon Optics, use the coupon code for 10%.
I want them to do a 3 to 18 or something. Then
I'm
I'll be
waiting
more
for that.
excited about putting out a coupon code because then it'll be
2
like,
to
hey,
12.
2 to 12, 3 to 18, something in the middle.
He's still taking notes, probably. Go to bed, Bob.
He abandoned us a long time ago.
Yeah, I'm sure he's in bed. He's like, yeah,
Yep.
fuck, these guys are talking about
Yeah, it's like
spiders.
1 a.m. over there.
No, these guys are talking about eating spiders. With fuck this.
He lives in Zulu +4. I mean, come on.
Oh man.
Mike, when we meet up, you need to bring the Advocate. I want to look through that.
I will. Actually, it would be a decent time to pattern that gun.
Indeed.
Honestly,
You know why?
So,
Because Dave has his own range.
yeah, indeed.
Ain't you fancy?
It-
All right,
I got-
Mike.
it's 3 railroad ties and some iron, but that's it.
You
Is
know,
it
the
sufficient?
first time I tried to set up a home range using railroad ties, you know what I found out?
They're heavy.
762 by 39 goes right through a railroad tie.
Good lord.
Like, oh, all right, never mind. I need a berm. Got it.
But does
Yeah.
it go through 2? And if it goes through 2, does it go through 3? And if it goes through 3, does it? And you just keep going until you figure it out. The
I don't
multiple
have that
number
many railroad ties.
Damn.
I've found
Alright.
that a tire stuffed with dirt will stop a 30-06.
Yep.
Anyway,
Mhm.
Anyway,
So
Mike, drum us out.
support the sport. Take a buddy hunting, and while you're hanging out with that buddy, tell them about us. Get some trauma training. Search for Let's Go Hunt on YouTube, Instagram at Let's Go Hunt Podcast, and at Reddit at r/Let's Go Hunt Podcast. Links available at lghpodcast.com. Check the show notes for info on Initiative 91, the ban on kitty cat hunting in Colorado. Thanks for listening, and let's go hunt.
I like
Suck it, Steve.
I like spider tacos or June bug of death. They have
Spider
succulent
tacos. Suck it, Steve.
there's something about some random snake flying around.
seeds.
June bug of death.